Positive Perspective, one of the most interesting hours in radio, where we shine the positive light of Jesus Christ on the scriptures, music, our communities, and world issues. We're broadcasting live from Skidrow Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles.
Yes, hi, I'm Willis Boyd.
And I'm Shantae Duncan.
And you're listening to Positive Perspective. Tonight's in-house or in-studio guest is
Marilyn Irizarry.
And
Denise Boyd.
And tonight we'll be talking about pedophilia, a very dark subject. And just going to try to shine a little bit of light on some things. And ask a few questions, get a few answers, hopefully. But I guess I wanted to know, do you think, or anybody in studio think, do you think that pedophiles are born that way?
Okay, I'll kick it.
Yeah, kick it off. Think about that.
Basically, what I have learned scientifically with research, and my opinion is, from my understanding of reality, is that the parent, the mother, holding the child inside, is going to what's the word? Impress the child with whatever the mother's going through before conception, during conception, and during in vitro perception, while the baby's in there. And if she's gone through herself sexual abuse, if she has a very unbalanced, unhealthy environment that she is in during pregnancy, then those things will go into the baby as part of the genetics of the child. Now, scientists are saying that children can hear everything from the point of conception.
Serious? Conception?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
What they're understanding now is...
I mean, they can hear and they don't have ears?
The word hearing is not about ears.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps I should change the word to a knowing.
Okay.
Knowing in your DNA, in your genes, in all the molecules that are in your body, those molecules...
They absorb what is being done.
Everything.
Uh-huh.
Just like whatever the mother has gone through, and most people talk about just the mother, but also the father. The father's contributing, whether the father is in the environment or not. But whatever parent, we now have test tube children, which carry the information of the father, even if they've never met. So my point is, it can be a predisposed situation. You have 5 kids, say from one mother, and only one comes out a certain way, because every single pregnancy, there's a difference in the life experiences.
So you're saying whatever that woman is going through at the time can affect the, I guess, behavior of the child?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's what I have found out through research, my own experience. I've been a counselor for 35 years.
Okay. All right. We have a guest via telephone. Very lovely young lady by the name of Lanisha Boyd. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there like that. Can you hear me, Lanisha?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Hey. I'm glad you could make it on the show. And we're having an open discussion here, and you can chime in anytime you feel ready. How did you feel about the comments that the lovely Marilyn just said?
The very interesting facts. I personally can't comment with any knowledge that I have in that area, because that's totally medical, and it makes sense to me.
Oh, okay.
But,
well, okay, then. So we're going to go ahead and kind of elaborate on just I guess.
Well, I think what Marilyn's saying is very, very interesting because just from what you've seen of so many times you've heard, women talk about, I had 5 kids, and how come one is like the bad seed or different, the black sheep, or however you want to put it.
Exactly.
And they were all raised in the same household, the same exact way, but one is so different from all the other ones. And it makes sense of what you're saying about something must have happened during conception or during that pregnancy that may have been different from the other kids or something like that.
Now, what were you talking about DNA? You guys were having a discussion about DNA and that whole thing. But also what you're saying is then how does a child become a pedophile? I mean, one kid likes to learn, one kid likes to burn, one kid likes to steal, but a pedophile, I mean, what happens, like you're saying, in a relationship that would cause
Okay, going back to my understanding, behaviorism and science is that each 5 kids, go back to the 5 kids, all 5 children are treated differently. And for whatever reason, and there's always reasons when you do...
now, excuse me for butting in, but when you say treated differently, do you mean at conception or do you mean growing up?
Growing up, raising the child. Every child is treated differently. You can have a household where they're treated similarly, but each child is treated differently. Mm-hmm. So what happens is if you have an individual who, for whatever reason, again, a parent looks at that child and that child triggers something inside the parent. I'm going to go back to my own family history. I have had sexual abuse in my family history. One cousin, it was her grandfather. Another person, it was the uncle. The one uncle actually had sexually abused several females in the family. The next generation, it came and showed itself again. Once you've been sexually abused, you will attract abusive people. So it happened to them and then happened to their children.
No, when you say you attract abusive people, you mean like, what do you mean? It's
okay.
Spell it out for me.
This is an hour show, so I'm going to make it quickly as I possibly can to explain that. What happens is we are chemicals. We have chemicals in our bodies. There are chemicals coming from a pedophile. It's coming out at the child. The child just takes in those chemicals, and then it has a memory. In different places, situations, pedophiles, people who are going to be perpetrators, they have, it's animalistic, and they will be attracted to the children who already have that within them, either in the family already or in the body.
So you're saying that it's sort of like if you're a carrier of like a disease, or it could be sickle cell anemia or leukemia or whatever it could be, and if you're the carrier, unless you come in contact with the person, it may stay recessive, but as soon as you come in contact with that person, it could trigger something then to bring that characteristic out.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
it's an analogy that's
yourself,
similar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just something that you're not really conscious of that is happening.
Okay, let me give you my one of the examples. I asked people if I could. I will not give you their names, but I'll give you examples. Mm-hmm. So one person, the father, was sexually abusing the child when she was still in diapers. So as she grows up, she attracts perpetrators. And the little boy next door, the kid down the street, the guy at the grocery store.
But their mannerisms, just the way they act, the way they walk, the way they talk, what?
Yeah, how can they detect it in somebody else?
Like I said, it's a chemical. There are attractions. Now we understand that in science. This is why we can help change and stop it.
Is that also the same as people that's been married numerous times, and they say they always seem, women that's had 4 or 5 different marriages, and they always seem to attract the same type of man?
Exactly. He's the same person, only different bodies. The perpetrators are the same, only they're in different bodies. I can tell you, I was sexually abused before I was even 3. It was a babysitter's son. My mother had been sexually abused. She didn't have filters. She didn't have healthy filters. So when you have healthy filters, somebody gets near you or your child, you will go at them or just have this ugly feeling. But if you've been abused, those filters have been taken down to practically nothing. And so you don't have the filters and you can attract it.
Wow. I'm like saying it's like...
Oh, you have something to say, Lanisha?
Yeah, I think also when it comes to someone growing up and becoming a pedophile, child molester, or someone that's going to just prey after children in a sexual manner, I think there could be several different causes of that. I think you could have someone who's just fulfilling their sexual perversion, those who think that they're not inflicting any pain on the child because they're touching them in a way where it's not coming off uncomfortable to the child yet because, their knowledge isn't there to understand what's happening to them. But on the other hand, that adult is still receiving pleasure from the fact that they're touching the child and it's satisfying their own personal sexual, gratification.
Mm-hmm.
I would just think it would be really hard to say that every molester or every child predator out there kind of grew up that way or was always in them or it's some type of DNA structure. I think that could be the case in a lot of cases, but overall I think there's just so many different causes to have such an evil desire to harm children in that way. Because you can't say that someone who's going to go out and rape girls age 18 and over isn't going to necessarily go after your 5-year-old daughter. So it's so many different things behind that.
But still, what she's saying is that, if you're a rapist and you're going after 18 and over, is there still like an aura about you that attracts? Basically that's what she's saying is that you have something about you that attracts women or guys or children. I guess I don't know, not children, but attracts them to you. And you can sense that they have been abused by, I guess, the way they act or the way they respond.
Well, I think also there may come into play where they have a little bit of morality in them, where they think that under 18 isn't okay, but over 18 is. And, so they may have those feelings or whatever, but they hold off until it just comes more prevalent in somebody over 18 years old.
Well, someone over 18 years old they have to be forcefully molested because we have some dizzy girls and guys out there, but I think you would know if someone's trying to.
Yeah, but they have, you can be raped, whether you're drugged up through ecstasy or any of the date rape drugs or alcohol that puts them, if that's your thing, where it's not consensual necessarily sex, but they think it's okay because it's now 18 as an adult. Whereas that, it's like I can.
So that's basically rape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like I said before, the information that we're sharing right now is not even 0.01% of what is out there. There's case-by-case scenarios. We're learning now how to protect our children. Before, we didn't have such rules. You go to a doctor, and the doctor could be alone in the room with your child because it was a doctor. Or you go, or we were talking about people in the clergy, and they were allowed in the room with you with no supervision. Mm-hmm. And if that person had a distorted sense of reality, regardless of how they got it or when they got it, they could be perpetrators. And the differentiation between the age 18, which was mentioned here, there's a guarantee that that person already had a predisposition for to them, they could do this. They could do the sexual abuse. And it's not that they don't know any better. There's some part of them that does. It matters when they started to have these feelings and acting out on them. And it is demonic. Absolutely.
To say the least.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you said there's better, or we know better ways of protecting our children. And then Willis had me do some research on the case at Miramonte Elementary School. I think it happened 2 years ago, but it was finally settled, I think, sometime this month. But with that teacher, he committed lewd acts against, I think, maybe 25 or more children in his classroom. But there were signs beforehand that should have been warning signs of how he was acting. There was reports against him that were dismissed because of lack of evidence, or I don't know, he just, could get away with certain things that he was doing, or maybe a slap on the wrist. But I think now it's scary in the sense that we're taking children to school and we don't know whether they're safe. Why, no one was really reprimanding him for anything until years later, when he's been a teacher for about 30 years. And I think one of the judges said he might have committed sexual acts against, over 100 kids. And now we're finally getting to the point where he's, getting locked up for 25 to life. But the abuse and the effect that it's going to have on those children when they get older, even now. And just because they caught him doesn't mean that there aren't any other teachers that are, going to be doing the same things, or have, been doing the same things and just haven't been caught yet.
And that's what I was saying. You say they're alone with these kids, or they're privileged to have access to these children, and I guess they're just sick, evil individuals. And I guess
it's even the fact that they are this way, they still have, like you were saying, he still was able to get a settlement and keep his pension and be paid while he's, under trial for these acts. And it's like there's no really importance placed on the fact that he was doing these things to these kids, but he's still able to get his money and get, things in order for himself.
Not much to the schools. Mm-hmm. And then that's a whole nother show, where these schools, in my opinion, are honoring, transgenders and pushing homosexuality and these things, and then they're fighting for people like this guy, letting him retire
instead
and not
of being fired, so he
being fired, and not giving him an option because of the evil things that he's done. They're letting it. Oh, okay. You have the choice to be. You have the choice to either retire or be fired. And you've done all these things to all these hundreds or 100 of kids or whatever. And the school is allowing this evil to infiltrate.
I think one of the reasons that the schools, and it's not just the schools, even the churches have done this, is it's looking at, it all comes back to money. If I fire the guy, then that means that we're at fault also with it, and we're opening ourselves up for far more lawsuits. If I let him retire, it's cheaper to pay him his salary or his retirement fund, and to just kind of, put it under the rugs and stuff, and not be held accountable. I mean, the churches have done that. We've seen where they've transferred them from one clergy to another, and the same thing probably with this teacher here, where he's been, gotten from one job to another job, and it was there, and it was like, well, we'll just kind of keep an eye on him, but everything.
But what's the understanding in it when you're talking about children, and that's my whole thing is what they're allowing and what they're teaching the children sexually and permitting. They're, in my opinion, the school districts are abusing these children, or in other words, they're pedophiles.
They're cooperating.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they're pedophiles, and they're molesting these children's minds at a tender young age to groom them into being what society's becoming now.
Well, we all know how impressionable kids are. I mean, not only by their classmates and stuff, but kids tend to look up to the adults. So if you have a teacher there, that's somebody you're supposed to be respectful for. That's supposed to be trustworthy. And so when you see those things, it is very impressionable to that child to say this. act is okay. That's why so many of the kids never said anything, even though they may have been uncomfortable with it or anything, because they trusted
made it
that
seem,
teacher.
Yeah, like a game or something that was fun, or he didn't necessarily make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel scared. He made them feel like it was something that they could enjoy, so they probably didn't make a complaint because they thought it was okay.
Here's something I'm going to say.
Okay.
My background, my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the sexual act can stimulate a child, and the child can be physiologically stimulated to the point of pleasure. That creates one of the worst scenarios in that child's mind, as inside, internally, and externally, because it makes you crazy. Even if you feel disgusted, if an orgasm has been experienced by the child, and it could be as young as a baby, then it distorts that child. And in behavioralistic terms, they are broken. So they can be broken into different personalities in order to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the worst things that can happen.
And that leads to
pain beyond anybody could even comprehend. That's why I say, personally, I call it demonic.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing on earth.
So, in my opinion, and I'm a little prejudiced here about what schools are teaching children these days, to teach children that you're not necessarily a boy or a girl. That whole thing that, you can be what you want. My brother was telling me about this little kid. He's only like 5 or 7, and he says he likes boys. Now, when you're 7 years old, or if you're 5 years old and you're telling people that you like boys, I mean, do kids that age, you're 5 and you know that you like boys. So, is that being taught to him, or is that just a child that's 5 years old? I remember when little kids that are 5, do they like, well, you know what? I like boys. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or is that being drilled into his head because he looked at a Barbie doll a certain way? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. One of the reasons I don't address that is that it's not my background as a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my personal background. So I can't
But does it
say
sound right?
anything that is not
Yeah.
with facts and substance behind it. I don't understand. So things that I don't understand, I don't usually open my mouth about.
Well, I ain't got that
So
problem.
is it like a wiring thing? How they say pedophilia is like a wiring or a brain structure thing, and how
It's a combination.
Because I think as a kid, I don't know if people are necessarily drilling into that kid's head that it's okay to be gay. If he just feels that way, it might be a wiring in his brain or how his brain is functioning.
Or he was molested when he was an infant.
Yeah, but I'm saying there could be cases where he's not as well, and he just has
Or
a
is
brain wiring
it being
thing.
taken where he says he likes boys because he wants to play with the boys out there that are playing rough and tumble because the girls are playing with the dolls, and he wants to go out there and play football. And so he says, I'd like the boys. And then is it being taken that to another extreme from what he really meant it to be?
In a different context.
In a different context.
But because all the parents and all these people are like trying to push this thing on the children. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what Hitler did when he was taking over. Where did he go? Where did he attack? Where did he start?
With the children.
He started brainwashing the children to start acting a certain way. And that's, and the parents are all embracing it, thinking it's a good thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom. And that's what's going on now in the schools and the media. That's what it reminds me of. They're attacking our children and trying to make them believe that, you're not a man or a woman or anything. And to me, that's mass confusion. That's just confusion. And we have enough problems already like we are.
Yeah.
So
it started too with schools trying to get children to be more accepting of other children's backgrounds, or maybe having children not grow up to be homophobic or things like that. And I think it just went a little too far with all the gay rights and all the, the pressure kids have these days to pick a side. Are you gay? Are you straight? You see it on television. We were just watching a cartoon called Clarence, and I noticed that two men were in a restaurant. One man walked into the restaurant. Another female character, this is a cartoon, mind you, is checking this guy out. He's like, oh, he's so cute, yada, yada. And as he's walking past her and she's still admiring him, he walks up to another gentleman, and they both begin to kiss and embrace. Now, I'm like, okay, well, this is an Adult Swim, but yet this is a cartoon that's, supposedly appropriate for my 13-year-old, but yet that's what it's showing. Yeah. So from the standpoint of that cartoon, what point were they trying to get across? That, okay, well, this is just normal behavior because this is the society we live in, and this is what your kids are most likely going to see when they're out with you. But to portray it on the cartoon,
it's massive.
That really felt, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a whole nother level.
Right, and that's something that we want to try to get into. But I think, Shantae, do you want to do the announcements?
Yeah, we'll cut to those and come back with our discussion. Thank you for tuning in to Positive Perspective. Visit iTunes.com to download podcasts from our previous shows. And if you'd like to call in, our number is 800-893-9562. The best impressions start at home. Elite furniture for affordable prices. Live in large furniture. For more information, contact Richard Boyd at 951-214-8555. That's 951-214-8555. Drama Stage Qumran has a weekly Veterans Theater workshop led by Melvin Johnson and Earlene Anthony. The workshop is on Wednesday nights from 4 to 6 p.m., a free course in stage managing, playwriting, and more. And if you'd like more information about this, you can contact Melvin at 213-908-6567 or email him at dramastage1@yahoo.com. We'd like to thank our professional engineer, Cheyenne. Doing a great job. Thank you for your help. If you'd like to be part of our show through sponsorship, you can contact us at 951-789-1046. And if you'd like to learn more about Positive Light Ministries and donate, please visit our website, positivelight.org, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/wearepositivelight. And now back to our discussion.
All right. Great job, Shantae. Yes. So the second half of our show, we want to talk about or discuss, child abuse or being abused or pedophilia. Can it lead to homosexuality? Or am I asking that question wrong? Or I'm just.
Yes.
Are you saying pedophilia against the same sex leading to homosexuality?
I'm just saying if a child is abused as an infant, as she says, early as an infant, and I don't know what those numbers are. I think Lanisha was saying, what was that? Those that topic?
Statistical information that you had.
What were you talking about there, Lanisha?
You know what? When you're speaking of how many homosexuals live that lifestyle as a result of sexual abuse in their childhood, that number is very low. Yes, it happens. Ironically, it happens more with females. The average female who's molested or experienced some type of child abuse at a young age will grow up to be homosexual faster than a male, which is, a little ironic because we just assume that most men who are homosexual, must have been molested or must have been a victim of a sex crime at some point.
Well, what was the stat you were saying about from the ages of 7 to 13? What was that?
Yeah, well, that's the age, that's the danger zone for a child to be molested. The age between 7 years old and 13 years old.
And did you have something to say about that, Marilyn?
I don't know where you got the statistics. I was saying before the show, if you have 5 different agencies giving you statistics, you can get 5 different points of information. Since I've worked in the field, been a victim myself, I can tell you that it happens any age, and that actually it's usually closer to 3. The reason is that they are less likely to tell on you. And that's why the distorted pedophile will go after a child before the child can even say anything.
Wow, yeah.
Exactly. And those statistics are really hard to really get a concrete number for as well, because that's also the age where a child, is quiet. And a lot of children who are molested under the age of 5 carry it their whole life, whether they don't quite understand exactly what happened to them, if it was a one-time event, or if it's at the hand of a relative, which the majority of the time is at the hands of someone that's close to the family or in the family or close to the child. So
Precisely.
I think that's scary. I think that's really scary, just because the statistics show one thing, but that's just record. That's just what's recorded.
Right. And the statistics are coming from people who have been getting therapy. Something happened. They finally got help, and then with hypnosis, with therapy, with treatment, like myself, when I got treatment, I was able to find out when. But there was a big blank spot in my brain on memory from childhood. And that's when that's when I went to go get help. We figured out why there was a blank spot in there. I couldn't remember anything. There was nothing in there.
So you blocked
the brain, in order to survive, will shut itself off.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of like what we talked about in a previous show, also on abuse in the marriage and stuff, or abuse that went on. Is all of a sudden now more people are coming forward. So did it look like there was more spousal abuse now, or is it just more people are reporting it, whereas before it was always kept hush hush, keep that in your house, don't let it go outside your household? I think with kids now, more and more are coming out. Either they're seeking for help because it's more available, or it's okay, to say, hey, I was abused as a child, but now I'm going to try to get help. Whereas before it was something that you were almost like, did you ask for that? Is that why? So, you just better keep quiet because, you're kind of damaged goods and no one's going to want you.
I think now more parents and more kids are being aware of what abuse is and what it looks like. I think that's probably why they're reporting it as well. Like with the teacher, many of them didn't know that they were being abused, so they didn't report it. So I think with cases that are coming up and with parents informing their kids, to tell them what's going on in their classes and stuff, that they can report what's being done to them.
So I think that just like all the priests that are coming out of abuse that went on 30, 40 years ago, where those kids, they're wondering why they're on their 5th marriage and that they're having all these issues over and over and over again because, like you said, Marilyn, they blocked it out and they can't figure out because they never had the help to help them unblock those blank spots.
Okay.
Will you become shameful? There are terms. Shameless is the perpetrator. Shameful is usually the victim. So then you are internalizing what was done to you. I did not become a perpetrator. I became a victim. Others, it went the other way around.
Okay, now Lanisha is saying that, like I asked you, our I guess victims, do a lot of them become homosexuals because of that abuse? Lanisha is saying that the numbers are really low. What do you say?
She's saying the males haven't been abused as much. The females that have been abused, again, statistically, where are you getting your statistic from will make a difference on what information is given as facts. So I do not know.
Okay, so what I would, we had a discussion about this earlier, and you were saying that, like, even you were saying about when children are abused like that the brain splits.
Yes.
And they do this as a means of survival.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's either here or it's there. I mean, what are we talking about here when the brain splits? What does that mean?
Again, it's an individual basis. I don't know if you know the term Sybil, but in the 60s, it was a very well-documented cases of a woman who'd been abused. And she had multiple personalities. In order for her to survive, the animalistic body has a brain that can change its dynamics, change its perspective in order to survive. You either survive or you commit suicide. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
You either survive or you commit suicide, whether it be by drugs, alcohol, abusive relationships, so they'll kill you, which is what you want because you can't handle what's inside of you. So again, all information is according to where you're getting the information from.
So, back to you were saying when the brain splits, for those children that have been abused and they have this decision that they've got to lean left or lean right, one way or the other, I mean, they're at a disadvantage, obviously, than from the child that hasn't been abused because they don't necessarily have that decision.
Right.
Are they influenced more then by when the schools or the cartoons like Lanisha was saying, when they start seeing the homosexuality, because they're already kind of teetering back and forth, what's right, what's wrong, which way am I, which way aren't. When society starts pushing more and more the tolerance or this is what you're going to see anyway, do they tend to lean more to a homosexual environment?
Oh, and I know she's got like this gray area there because it's not her expertise. But what you were saying about even the pleasure, I was doing a little research on it myself, and there's hundreds of stories, even thousands of stories of kids that are not as tough. I'll say young men that are not as tough. They're not homosexuals, but being forced and abused to commit those acts. And then, like you say, being confused because it felt good. And or they admire or appreciate the masculinity of their abuser. And there's thousands of stories like that are people that are hurting because they were sexually molested, forced, and just like you, split, confused. You know, what is that about? I mean, the numbers are, in my opinion, or what I'm reading, and I'm not reading, I guess they're not basically stats, but I'm reading individual stories of people that have gone through this and they don't know. They're confused and they are in something in a craziness.
Some people don't know.
Okay.
Just like some people are walking around unconscious about all kinds of issues of humanity. The people who are the elitist, the people who have been raised with entitlement, the people that are covering their asses, the Sandusky's, the churches, the CEOs. There is some information about something that's been going on for decades where they have their side people outside of their family in apartments and they go from one person to the other in big companies. So there's a lot of going on, a lot happening in so many different arenas.
And I was thinking, Lanisha, you were just telling me something about that, weren't you?
As far as underground sex acts, I guess you could say.
No, it
Sex
was
trafficking.
something. You were saying the sex trafficking, but you were saying that it wasn't based on race or anything like that. It was based
You
on
said social class.
yes, social classes.
Yeah, that's in terms of the cases that we, get to view on television, on the news, and different media outlets. A lot of people, in the discussion that we were having, I was saying how many people think that there's a racial difference or preference as far as which cases get media attention, but it's more of a social class. It's more of the privileged, either white or black female who's missing, or you're not really going to hear of the girl in the ghetto or the girl from the mobile home park or anything like that. But underneath it all, because I just did an article for on this exact topic, the majority of missing women cases are pointing towards the billion-dollar human trafficking market. And these women are abducted at rapid numbers. We hear of very few cases, and like she says, you don't know who the perpetrators are a lot of times, because a lot of them are,
Very rich and powerful people.
Exactly, and high up
with front
there.
people that take care of all the dirty work, and so that if they get caught, it's not pointing to the person actually barking out the order.
Yeah,
And you were also saying
so well
something,
organized.
saying something also about the mothers selling their babies to pedophiles for drugs.
Yes. That's, I think, is one topic that's hard for any mother to discuss, because we can't comprehend what a mother is going through or thinking, or her mental state at the time of wanting to sell her own child to a pedophile or to anyone that's involved in exploiting a child.
Or human trafficking is basically what that is as well, right?
Exactly. And so you have these men who prey on, the strung out mother, the crackhead mom, the stereotypical, I guess, poverty-struck family, and you have a lot of these mothers who are giving into that. They're selling their children, they're giving them up for the night, or whatever the case may be, for child pornography, for child trafficking, for so many lewd acts. And it's just really sad. And it's happening more now because as it relates to drugs, and, we're in like a bad drug epidemic right now, and it's not spoke of. It's swept under the rug. It gets no exposure. You would think $1 billion industry that's kidnapping our children, putting them in porn, selling them off for sexual acts, you would think it would get a lot more attention than it does.
And why do you think it's not? Because the people who are operating those organizations are the media? And I'm speculating here, all right?
I don't know. That would get like.
I'm speculating. I'm not pointing no fingers. I'm asking a question.
Conspiracy.
Well, I think when it comes to child trafficking and selling kids off to pedophiles, people in this country don't like to admit that they're stooping to a level that may be going on in third world countries, because they think that we're a little bit better than that, and that we have a little bit more morals and more.
We're Christians.
It's a Christian society per se, what they say. But so I think they close their eyes to it and pretend that it doesn't happen, and thinking that it's going to go away, and it's not going away. It's just getting increasingly more and more. The numbers are being created, and until somebody with a lot of money or in a high position can actually take the lead on something and start pushing it, instead of going to, South America, Africa, some of these other places where, over into some of the Orient and stuff where it's happening, they need to take a look at what's going on right in their very own country, instead of always looking outside the country, and that's where they put their focus and their money at.
Mm-hmm.
Can I interject here something?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
I have hardly ever heard anyone in the government say anything about sexual abuse. Hardly ever. It is still a very difficult word, sexual abuse of any kind. And you will not see someone going up to be a mayor or an assemblyman or a congressman say, yeah, we're going to make sure there's no sex trafficking in my area. They just don't bring the subject up because the subject is still taboo. That is why we continue to have what's going on, is because people are not willing to speak about it as publicly as they will speak about other subjects.
Okay,
Yeah.
but do you think they don't want to talk about it because, and you know what? I'm not trying to disrespect, and maybe I am. Our government is corrupt.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they might not speak about it because it might be them. You
Or
know?
if not them, someone in their family,
friends,
someone in their
some of their
friends,
associates.
Someone in our
associate,
Congress.
and somebody in their circle of associates. And I think not only is it not our government that has issues, but look at the amount of movie stars and the entertainment field. For some reason, they always feel like they're obligated to go and help outside of the country. So many of them without helping their own right inside the country, because that doesn't get any publicity. You know, what gets publicity is, like I said, I'm going over to to one of the Asian countries, and I'm going to work in Taiwan, where they have the sex trafficking going on of all the children and stuff. And they close their eyes to what's going on here because there's no...
Maybe they just don't know.
Well, I think they know. I think it's because it's not a hidden topic. It's just not popular over here. It's easier to say it's happening over there, and I don't have to deal with it here and bring it out into the open. You know, if we keep, what you keep behind the door is a lot easier than what you put up when you open that door up to, because they again, you're going to go up against, am I going to get the next role that I play because somebody in that higher place is the one that's the producer or the director or something that may be involved in that, because that's in your own backyard. Wow. When you go over to another country, oh yeah, now that you're the humanitarian, you're the hero.
You're not stepping on anybody's feet
that's
over
right.
here.
You're not stepping on any toes over in this country.
I'm sure that has something to do with it. Like I said, and I repeat myself, I know that. But it's the elitist, those who haven't feel of entitlement. And it is the agendas, the hidden agendas. What's in it for me? Can it ruin my career? Can it help my career? Whether I'm in the entertainment business or a CEO of a company.
Yep.
And what about the streets, the dirty, rotten, low-down, dirty streets of Skid Row? There's a lot of filthy, disgusting, evil pedophiles lining those streets.
But I think if you, and this is my opinion again, if we put it into one area and say that's just the environment there of what created these issues, then I don't have to look and say it's in my suburban area that I live in. It's only in that nasty area, where, those type of people live. I don't have to deal with it.
I think it's a point. It's point the finger so that you're looking at where I'm pointing the
Instead of
finger and you're
everywhere else.
not looking at me.
Well, I guess my point was it's happening at a lot of high levels, but it's happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
And
it happens from the poorest of poor to the richest of rich. And it's just where you want to deal with that issue at and where you want to hide that issue at, what level.
Yeah, well, that's straight up.
And too, as the poorest of poor, okay, we can address that, but the richest of the rich, what happens is they don't tell. Those are the people that end up committing suicide on statistically a greater level, whether it be drugs, alcohol, because I am a drug alcohol counselor. I've been in the community for 35 years. I see what happens in families where it's the dirty secret.
Now, when you say the community, you're talking about the Skid Row community?
All the communities, from having people who have their own private planes where nobody talks about it. And the people are in fetal positions, basically dying. And the doctors will give them medication, but nobody's really addressing it openly. Not in their families, not in the communities.
Well, and I think also when you're very rich and well-to-do, if you can buy your way to hide whatever you want to hide, you know, and we see that with, you know, a lot of the athletes on a lot of different things that's gone on. You know, I want to make sure that star football player is out there on that field, or that star coach, or whatever sport it's in, or even entertainment it's in. You know, we'll just pay the person off that has been attacked, because that's really what it is an attack. And, you know, I can still, you know, go on my way and stuff.
Suspend them for a while and bring them back.
Make it superficially look like you're actually really doing something towards accountability, but it's a lie.
And when you've got the money, you can buy your way into cover up.
So do you think, though, because of pedophilia, pedophiles and abuse, do you think that there are a lot of people out there hurting, like you say, lost between genders, lost and hurting, suffering, not knowing, those that tell and those that don't? What are the numbers of people that, and I know it's probably a weird question, but the people that don't, I mean, just a speculation of how many people are molested and don't tell?
A lot.
But I mean, is it like 50%, or is it greater than that percentage?
It's greater than 50.
Wow.
Majority,
It's
right?
much greater than 50.
Would be the majority of people don't say anything about it?
Yes. It can go as high as 90%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seems like there'd be a lot of people.
That's
and they were saying like
staggering.
a lot of girls on the campuses of the colleges are raped.
Yeah, a lot of
And
rape
they
victims
don't-
say anything either.
They don't say anything. They're told not to. You don't want to ruin our reputation. Why would you tell anything? We don't want to have them close our school down. It just happened
Or
this
who would believe
this
you?
week,
And, yeah,
right? Where the campus finally said, okay, we're closing these Greek things down. How did those males become rapists? How did their brains justify the action? So anyway, it's a subject that can go on and on and on.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
It's been a very interesting show. We're going to wind down now. Anyone closing comments? Marilyn?
Thank you for having the show. I've been working with this particular subject for over 40 years, 40. And it's something that I've had to work on personally, and I choose to be a counselor for those who need the help.
And you feel that you are able to help through this ministry?
Absolutely.
Okay. Lanisha, it is so...
Thank you.
You have to come here because it's like, I can't see you. Are you there?
I'm here.
Now, you have any closing comments?
No, not really closing comments. I guess since we left off, speaking about why so many people don't come forward, with their rape and molestation stories. I personally, from my own experience and the experience of those close to me who have lived through similar situations, I think it really all comes down to the stigma that's attached to being raped, being molested, being homosexual. It's such a heavy stigma for someone to have to carry, and I think if we could just eliminate that to a certain degree, to where at least children know that, it's only about getting them safe and getting them the help that they need to overcome such, a traumatizing ordeal.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening to Positive Perspective.
Thank you.
Read that little thing. Okay. Well, thank you.
We had like 10 seconds.
Oh, well.